When I first got my first full frame camera, the 5D Mark II, I bought the 50mm 1.8 lens. Now, this was the first time that I experienced depth of field or anything like that. And honestly, it was pretty mind-blowing, but it got me really addicted to getting that high depth of field look. Over the next few years, I went on this just binge of buying lenses. I bought the 24mm 1.4, the 35mm 1.4, and the 70-200mm f2.8, as well as the 100mm macro 2.8. I also bought the 24-105 f4. And at some point, I just looked at my bag one day and I just saw all this glass in there. And I noticed that I was only really using one of the lenses, and that was the 35mm 1.4. I find the 35mm focal length to be that perfect sweet spot where you can get the environment in the background if you want to, or you can use depth of field to isolate your subject from it. And depending on whether you're really close to your subject or away, you can control how much background is in there. Yes, you're not going to get the versatility of having the 24 to 200 range, but with a 35, you can get the job done. That's kind of what I was using for almost everything. So I kind of sold all my glass and I just kept that one 35mm 1.4 lens for a long time. The problem is that lens was also pretty heavy, and after a while I wanted something more compact. And then I was introduced to Fuji, and then now I have the X100V and a bunch of other smaller Fuji cameras, but I still have a Canon camera that I use for video. I find that Fujifilm for video, it just isn't as powerful and robust and reliable. The Fujifilm cameras tend to crash sometimes right to the card, and they just have these little quirks that don't make it a workhorse or a reliable tool that you can count on no matter what. I use Fuji for photo and Canon for video. However, that got me thinking. I have the EOS R5 and I have the 15-35 f2.8. That lens is also massive, and it's huge, and it's unnecessary, I think. It's unbelievably large for just video. I don't think that I can justify keeping that lens. And so instead of that one, I ended up opting for the 35mm 1.8 lens. This lens is very small, very compact, and gives you really shallow depth of field with 1.8, but also really high quality. You know, the images and the video that comes out of it is excellent. And it also has image stabilization, which is something that I really want for video. So this is kind of a change that I made recently, is I am slowly but surely selling all of my Canon glass, and I'm only going to keep the 35mm 1.8. Yeah, I mean, the general rule of thumb that I've been using is if I have not used something within the last year, at least once a week, then it's time for me to sell it. I don't think owning something is worth it if you're not using it constantly. And that also keeps you very light, and it keeps you very nimble. You're not like tied down to stuff. And oftentimes when you limit yourself to only having one thing, it kind of makes you more creative. It opens up your mind and your brain starts thinking about how you can accomplish your goal with the tools that you have. I don't know, I just really want to live a purposeful life where every item that I buy or everything that I have serves a very strong purpose. And I don't want to be just accumulating things for the sake of accumulating them, because then I'm just going to end up with a barrage, just like a huge amount of stuff. But I want to be very intentional about what I buy, you know. That's why I don't mind splurging and buying really expensive stuff, because when I do decide to buy something, it's usually something that I've thought very long and hard about, and it's something that I'm going to use constantly. And lenses, these camera gear lenses, they get replaced once every decade or 2 decades. You know, camera bodies come and go, but these lenses are with us to stay. You have to make sure you're pretty confident that you will keep it for the long haul, and that you're not just churning through them. The other annoying thing is, if you've ever tried to sell a lens before, you will understand that you will lose money when you sell a lens. You know, if you're unlucky enough to be where I'm from in northeast New Jersey area, you're gonna pay tax on whatever you buy. So whatever you buy brand new, you're gonna pay tax for it. And when you sell it, you're not gonna recoup that tax back. I'm really happy with the purchase of this 35 1.8 that I'm shooting on right now for video. I feel like it's a super light lens. It's small, the quality is great. It's not weather sealed. It's obviously, it's not an L lens, so it has its flaws. But I think that the cost and the image quality and all the pros far outweigh the cons in this case. And this is a little lens that I'm going to keep for a very, very long time. I feel like even if they come out with the L version, I will still stick with just this one, because I like just being light and carrying things that don't hurt my wrists or hurt my back, or I don't really have any major complaints about it, and I'm looking forward to using it for more on this channel. Yeah, that was it. I just wanted to give you guys a quick update about that. And if you have any questions about that lens, I'm going to make a full other review of it later, probably next week. In the meantime, if you have any questions about anything, please let me know. And until next time, peace.